Yeah. Very good evening, dear friends. I dealt with the rule of majority under the Companies Act in part 1, further continued in part 2, and the exceptions to this principle, phosphorus orbital, we will deal with in today's session. That is part 3. Before that, there are various cases I told you which were followed with the principle laid in phosphorus orbital. And one more citation, that is Edwards versus Halliwell here, which was also, in fact, in suit with versus Harbotel, Edwards versus Halliwell. These are all the judgments you are supposed to quote in the examination. Friends, there is another important citation, Bamford versus Bamford, 1969, where in this case, the question was, the director suppose exercise any of their intravirus powers improperly, their acts and subsequently be ratified by an ordinary resolution, full and frank disclosure by the directors to the shareholders, what would happen? The majority decision will prevail. Same first versus Harbotel rule was followed here. Then the same view was taken in Hogg versus Cram Forney Limited, 1969 Chancery Division, followed by the Calcutta High Court in Jahar Brothers versus Sholapur Spinning and Weaving Company, Singapore, Jajaria Brothers versus Sholapur Spinning and Weaving Company Limited, All India Reporter, 1941, Calcutta High Court 174, followed by Hating versus Delpont, then Normandy versus Industrial Corporate and Company, where in this case the shareholder was not allowed to maintain an action against directors to increase their remuneration. Then the court said you go back to the company, general, whatever is transpired in the general meeting is final. Minority rule will prevail. I request you to mute your mics because some disturbance is coming in YouTube. All this will not be good. Please take care. Now, friends, there is one more citation, MacDougall versus Gardiner, 1875. In this case, the articles of company empowered the chairman with the consent of meeting to adjourn the meeting and also provided for taking a poll if demanded by shareholders. Then adjournment was moved and then it was declared by the chairman to be carried. A poll was demanded and by the chairman. Then it was done by a shareholder and the court said only company can sue, shareholder place. In fact, minority shareholders cannot interfere. Well, friends, these are all the laid in these particular cases which followed the principle laid in first versus Harbotel. I once again request all of you to mute your mics. There is a lot of disturbance coming, and this will interrupt the YouTube program because this is being recorded and it will be you for your own advantage. So kindly take care, and I want pin drop silence, please. Thank you. Now, friends, in that event, if tomorrow does something which is illegal and illegality has got grave consequences, how are you going to handle it? So, every law, every principle of law has an exception. And in this case also, there is an exception. So, exceptions are two kinds. You have to find out the exceptions under the common law. You have to find out the exceptions under the statute, that is the Companies Act and other allied legislations. So far the common law is concerned, there are several occasions where suppose there is a fraud committed on minority and then there is a case where wrongdoers in control of the company, then definitely this particular principle will have an exception and majority rule will not be accepted in courts of law. In the same way, where there is infringement of rights of individual shareholders, Companies Act comes into picture and resolution which require a particular majority and to be passed by special, not passed, an ordinary resolution passed, then also the matter would be taken seriously, the action would be vitiated. Further, the central government can interfere and with investigation under sections 210 to 229 in the same way the matters pertaining to prevention of oppression and mismanagement also the in fact courts will interfere. So these are all the basic things where you can find out one on common law and then another on the particular statute, the exceptions come into picture. Friends, under common law, the circumstances I will first explain. Then under statute, what are the circumstances which stand as exceptions, I will explain. If you take care of these two, definitely you replay my video, definitely you can write well in the examination. Further, I have already sent you a lot of material running in 900 pages. If you follow that material also, substituting 2013 Act, because some 1956 Act provisions were quoted there, definitely you will make a good answer. You will be through well in the examination. Then, now what are the exceptions here? Friends, the exceptions under common law, the first point is Ultra Vires Act, where the powers of the majority is subject to the provisions of the company's memorandum and articles, and a company therefore cannot legally authorize or ratify any Ultra Vires Act which is outside the ambit of memorandum, that is ultra vires, as I have already told you. Such acts being illegal, there can be no question of transaction being carried by any majority. And a shareholder is entitled to bring an action against the company and its officers in respect of such matters. I will give you some case law in this regard. Ultra Vires Acts. One is Bharat Insurance Company Limited versus Kanhaiya Lal. This is AIR 1935, Lahore High Court 792. In this case, the plaintiff was a shareholder of the Bharat Insurance Company. One of the objects of the company was to advance money at interest on the security of land, houses, machinery, and other property situated in India. The plaintiff complained that several investments have been made by the company without adequate security and contrary to the provisions of the memorandum of association. He therefore prayed for a perpetual injunction to restrain the company from making such investments. Then the court observed that in all matters of internal management, the company itself is the best judge of its affairs and the court should not interfere. Majority rule prevails, first versus a bottle. However, the application of assets of the company is not a matter of internal management. The directors are acting ultra vires in the application of funds of the company. Even a single member can maintain a suit for the declaration as to truth construction of article in question. So the matter was interfered, and the High Court has in fact intervened in the matter. Then another interesting case, Narcom versus Narcom, 1985-1, All England Reports, 65 CA. The Court of Appeal in England held that where the minority shareholder sues in a representative capacity on behalf of the company for its benefit, It's necessary that the plaintiff's own conduct in the circumstance should be proper. This is the rarest of rare phenomena. Thus, where there has been an inordinate delay in bringing the action for the plaintiff's own conduct was improper, he would not be a proper person to bring an action on behalf of the company. Then, in this case, the wife, a minority shareholder, brought an action against her husband as a director. Her action was based on the information which she came to know about the improper profits made by the husband that were taken into consideration in the matrimonial proceedings between them while settling the award. Dismissing the appeal, the court held that she was not a proper plaintiff for a representative action in this case. Representative action must be rational, based on proper material. Now, friends, the second important subject. Now, ultra vires is over. Under common law, fraud on minority. The majority cannot be allowed to benefit itself unduly at the expenses of the minority shareholders. Therefore, the conduct of the majority of the shareholders constitutes a fraud on the minority, then they can be sued and the courts can give redressal, but it has to be proved in evidence. Thus, where a special resolution seeks to discriminate between majority shareholders and minority shareholders so as to give farmer an advantage which the latter would be deprived of, then an alteration of articles is not bona fide, and it was held that it is not for the benefit of the company, then the court can interfere even at the instance of a single shareholder. This is, in fact, this particular case, in fact, this is pertaining to fraud on minority. And then, friends, I will now take you to another decision, English decision. This is Manier versus Hooper's Telegraph Works, 1874, 9, CA 350, where a fraud on minorities alleged. There were two rival companies, A and B. Then the majority of the members of the company A were also members of company B. Carefully listen. The company A had commenced action against company B. At a meeting of company A, the majority passed a resolution to compromise the action in a manner favorable to company B but unfavorable to company A. Thus, they deprived the company A of the benefits which it would have recovered from company B by way of compensation. The court held that the resolution was invalid and observed that the minority shareholders of company A would bring an action to have the compromise set aside because in this case the majority had put something in their pocket at the expense of the minority. Beautiful. Excellent judgment it is. Then, friends, the next important thing, this particular principle that the court or the NCLT, let us say, can interfere to protect the minority where majority was trying to benefit itself at the expense of the minority shareholders. It was further reiterated by the English Court of Appeal in Cook versus Deeds, 1916, 1, AC 554 PC, where three directors of a railway construction company obtained a contract in their own name to construct a railway line. The directors had used their position as directors to obtain the contract, and it obviously announced a breach of trust by them. It was amounted to breach of trust by them, who then used their voting powers to pass a resolution of the company, declaring that the company was not interested in the contract. Then it was held that the directors must account to the company for the profits they made apparently at the expense of minority. This is a beautiful case where the courts interfere. Then another important citation, Allen versus Gold Reefs of West Africa, 1901, Chancery Division 656, where it was held that the rule that majority powers must be exercised bona fide and in good faith for the benefit of the company as a whole was reiterated. If they have not been so exercised, there is fraud on minority. Just M.R. Lindley, the learned judge, said, the power of altering articles must, like other powers, be exercised subject to those general principles of law and equity which are applicable to all powers conferred on majorities and enabling them to bind minorities. It must be exercised bona fide for the benefit of the company as a whole. Then, if it is a case, suppose individual interest has got to be sacrificed, keeping in view the exigencies of the business enterprise, and directors are the best judges to take decisions in this regard, then in doing so, care must be taken to ensure that no more damage is caused to the individual shareholders than is absolutely necessary for protection of the company's interests. This is the most important principle, cardinal rule laid in order to exercise the rule of majority. This is the Daffen Tin Plate Company Limited versus Lianelli Steel Company Limited, 1922, Chancery 124. Equally, another case, Peters American Delicacy Company versus Heath, 1939-61, CLR 457. And this is a decision of the High Court of Australia, wherein all the relevant cases on the subject have been elaborately discussed. You can go through this. These are all available in internet. You can click. I have given you the references and then citations also. In this tin plate company's case, the articles of defendant company initially conferred no power for compulsory acquisition of the members' interest. A special resolution was therefore passed, altering the articles and empowering the majority of shareholders to decide that the shares of any member may be offered for sale by direction to such persons as they deem it fit at a fair value to be fixed. At a fair value to be fixed. Defendant company was formed with the object that all its shareholders were to take tin plates from the company. The plaintiff company refused to oblige, as a result of which the defendant company resolved to acquire the plaintiff company's shares. The court held that the defendant company had exceeded the limits that are necessary for its protection. The resolution, therefore, was set aside. So you find this is fraud on minority, where the courts intervened. In fact, another citation, Sidebottom versus Kershaw, Lees and Company, 1921, Chancery Division 154. In fact, similar issue you can go through. I am giving the citation. Then Brown versus British Abrasive Wheel Company, 1919, 1 Chancery 290. Then Edwards versus Halliwell, I have already given, 1952, All England Reports 1064. Then friends, Glass versus Atkin, the next important citation. Then there is another very important citation, Daniels versus Daniels, 1977, New LJ 938, where the plaintiffs were minority shareholders of a company, brought an action against two directors, alleging that the company, on the instructions of the two directors, who were majority shareholders, sold the company's land to one of the directors, who was wife of the director, for 4,250 pounds, and the directors knew or ought to have known that the sale was at an undervalue. In fact, a little later, she sold the same land for 1,20,000 pounds. So, a question now. The court says, even though no fraud alleged, there was a breach of duty by directors and majority shareholders to the detriment of the company and benefits to the directors. So minority can maintain